Implied in Elder Uchtdorf's statement is that the church will continue to demonstrate a high rate of growth into the distant future. The narrative that the church will continue to grow until it fills the whole earth is not President Uchtdorf's, but has been with us since the beginnings of this dispensation. The church also cites Daniel's famous stone which is cut out of the mountain prophecy to support the rapidly and unstoppable growing church narrative. President Gordon B. Hinckley used this prophecy in the October 2007 General Conference in the context of the growth of the church.
The church has become one large family scattered across the earth. There are now more than 13 million of us in 176 nations and territories. A marvelous and wonderful thing is coming to pass. The Lord is fulfilling His promise that His gospel shall be as the stone cut out of the mountain without hands, which would roll forth and fill the whole earth, as Daniel saw in vision. A great miracle is taking place right before our eyes.
Unfortunately, the church misinterprets both Joseph's statement and Daniel's prophecy to support its rapid growth rate scenario. Neither Joseph nor Daniel had the rapid growth of the church in mind when speaking of the kingdom of God filling the earth, but this is a topic for another day. Putting Daniel and Joseph aside, is there good reason to believe that the rapid growth rate of the church will continue unabated into the future? Since President Uchtdorf introduced his numerical measure of truthfulness, statistics, as the basis for his claim, we will do the same. The church often presents its narrative with graphs that show its growth from 1830, when it was organized, to the present day. These types of graphs invariably show a dramatic rise in the numbers, starting with the original 6 members and ending in the millions. These graphs, though supporting the narrative, do not give a true picture of what is happening today. They cannot help support any realistic projection of what growth will be in the future. Only recent trends can offer a basis for predicting the future growth of the church. We will use 2 methods of trend analysis based on the data provided by the church in its yearly statistical reports: membership growth and the growth of congregations. President Uchtdorf used total membership growth in defining his numerical measure of truthfulness. He correctly stated that the church was growing and that it had reached a historic number of total members. But what are the growth trends recently? Using the yearly statistical report beginning in 1970 and ending in 2012, one researcher found that since 1990, the annual growth rate has been continually falling. In 1990, the growth rate was over 6%. For the 20 years before that, the growth rate was generally 4 to 5%. For the last decade or so, the growth rate has been only 2.5%. The church is growing, but the rate has considerably slowed. The current growth rate of the church does exceed the growth rate of the world population. If continued, this will eventually ensure that everyone in the world will be a Mormon. Unfortunately, this will take thousands of years, and the earth will be seriously overpopulated before this occurs. Another measure of growth is the increase in the number of congregations, meaning wards and branches. This method is more accurate than the membership growth rate, which only provides insight into the total number of baptized members and children of record. Congregational growth factors in sacrament meeting attendance, active priesthood holders, and other requirements which are needed to organize additional wards and branches. According to averages provided by Cumorah.com, congregational growth has clearly slowed in the last decade, which matches the slowdown in overall membership growth. In fact, congregational growth is slower than membership growth, which can only mean that member inactivity is rising. Many conclusions can be drawn from these trends. We will highlight two. First, the church is growing, though it is growing quickly only in comparison to other Christian churches. Second, in the last more than a decade, growth rates are slowing and inactivity is rising. If these trends continue, then a projection would eventually show the church slowing to a near zero membership growth rate, and, with increased inactivity, a negative congregational growth rate. In fact, the state of California has had a negative congregational growth rate since 2004. Could this be an initial look into the future of the church?